So hi, welcome to my podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
Throwback Thursday, recorded on a Thursday, posted on a Monday.
Damn right. We're
Oh,
still doing this shit.
We still doing it.
We're
Almost
not
forgot.
new to it. We're true to it. Oh yeah. No, not almost. Be
Almost.
honest.
I almost forgot, because if I did forget, I wouldn't be here. Shout out my calendar app. I had my do not disturb on, so I checked my notifications. Shout out my calendar app for reminding me I had to be here at 11 o'clock. It reminded me at 10 a.m. That I had to be here at 11. I saw it at about 10:15.
When you texted me.
Yeah, 52-minute album, 45 minutes. We moved this back.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
Can we push it 15 minutes? I said, what the hell? Sure.
So yeah, we're continuing on the Bring Me the Horizon train, just chugging along here, chatting about their 2010 album. There is a hell, believe me, I've seen it. There is a heaven. Let's keep it a secret. What a mouthful.
And that's not even their longest title, because there's music to breathe to, fuck to, sweat
We're
to.
not talking about that release. Hell no.
We're not, but just a brief little mention of it. They dabble. They dabble in the longer titles.
I've never said that title out loud, or honestly, I think even read it. I just know the album is There Is a Hell, ... You know, I've spent a lot of time with this record. This is the one where they make the full transition from, deathcore into metalcore. The last record, Suicide Season, saw the beginnings of that shift, but there were still some deathcore influences throughout the record. This record, we go straight into the metalcore. Would you like to begin, Glory?
I would like to begin with just my couple notes. I feel like I was not as invested in this record as I was with Suicide Season, because that one has such high regard. So it's like I feel like I had to kind of go above and beyond with that one.
Mm-hmm.
With this one, I do have a couple things to say. Firstly, I'm going to start off by saying I think this record is better than Suicide Season. This shit is incredible, and I wish it had the same recognition. Maybe it does. I don't think it... No, it doesn't. It doesn't have the same recognition as Suicide Season, because Suicide Season is that record for Bring Me the Horizon. It has the classic album cover. It has the fucking biggest song. It's all that shit. This record is a lot more palatable, obviously, because it's not deathcore. It is metalcore. So obviously, easier stepping stone. If you don't like deathcore, you would start with this record. You wouldn't start from the very beginning of their discography, because you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? I'm never listening to Bring Me the Horizon again. I think this record is smart in a lot of ways. I think lyrically and instrumentally, I feel like they've gotten a lot more technical. The record is a concept album. I mean, loosely a concept record. It's about the struggles of a man just going through it. Literally, it's just a fucking dude who's going through it. And obviously Ollie, the writer, the lyric writer, was not doing so well. So obviously he's the man in the concept record. So I don't think he could make up his mind, because I was reading interviews about it, and I was like, so is it a concept record or not? Like, you could just say that you were like going through some hard shit. You don't have to say it was a guy. Like, okay. I think, as I said, lyrically, it's a lot more raw. It's a lot more emotional. It's like thinly veiled. If he does try to use anything to kind of hide what he's actually trying to say, it is so thinly veiled. You're able to see right through and be like, oh yeah, that's fucked up, or damn, that's really sad. So I think that's great, because again, you really don't have to listen too hard to kind of understand the meaning of the songs and understand the meaning and the concept of the record. Obviously, looking at just the titles of the record, it doesn't look like a happy, sunny record. I mean, you have fucking It Never Ends, Fuck, Don't Go, Home Sweet Hole, Blessed with a Curse, Crucify Me. I mean, obviously, like, these aren't the songs of a happy man, right? So I think that's great, and because you know what you're gonna fucking get into. The opener, Crucify Me, featuring Lights, which is an incredible feature. I believe it's the first song for them to have female vocals on, which is insane. They feature twice on the record. Hell yeah. I would have been so okay with it being a fucking collaborative record and they were just on every track because I think it adds so much complexity and just that extra layer that I didn't know Bring Me the Horizon needed. Especially with how heavy this record is, and as I said, kind of how emotionally strong it is. Especially on Crucify Me, they get into a lot of orchestral moments. It goes into this big breakdown to then it goes to kind of an acoustic moment, and then it comes all the way back up. I mean, it's fucking like 6 or 7 minute tracks. They have a lot of real estate to work on.
Mhm.
But the second half turns into more of an orchestral where they start experimenting with strings and they make it just a really big opener. And I think that shit is so fucking dope. And then, weaving in between the orchestral moments, you have the featured vocalist, which again, so fucking good. It sounds incredible, and that song genuinely had my jaw drop the first time I listened to it. I was like, okay, wait, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Immediately added to my fucking liked songs. This shit was crazy. I thought Anthem was good. It's just fine. It didn't really do much for me. I think It Never Ends is really good. A little repetitive for me with the chorus. Well, I mean, I believe it's actually the bridge. It's not the chorus. Where they're just repeating "It never ends, it never ends, it never ends," which is fine because then it ties into kind of just how much of a fucking downer this record is and how sad it is and how um broken, I guess, Ollie was. So repeating "It never ends, it never ends." It's like, yeah, this is, the writings of a fucking sad ass dude. I get
Mhm.
it. But as a listener, as a person who's not in that headspace, it kind of I'm like, all right, yeah, we get it. But that's just me. Um, featuring Josh from, I believe, You Me at Six.
Mhm.
Um, Look at that. Josh from You Me at Six is also an incredible track. I think this one is a fucking ass beater. I love it so much. I didn't expect a You Me at Six feature at all on this record because to me those bands are like they don't even cross over in my head. Rest in peace, You Me at Six. But incredible feature, one of my favorite songs. Don't Go is the next track after that, featuring Lights again. Insanely sad song, lyrically and sonically. I think it's fucking gut-wrenching and I think it's great. Home Sweet Hole, I feel like fell flat for me a little bit. I think it's just fine, but it's like towards like the second half of the record, it kind of feels like
It's
I'm
also
just hearing things I've already heard already on the record. It feels like shit that they already covered.
and it also is like the poppiest song on the record.
It's just
In like a
it
weird
feels
way.
weird.
It's still heavy, but especially that second half where they're just essentially repeating the song title over and
Yeah.
over again feels like very. I've never been a huge fan of that song.
Yeah, it's just it missed the mark.
Yeah.
The album would have been fine without it,
Mhm.
it doesn't add anything. Um I think getting into kind of like there's like a small portion where it's Home Sweet Hole, Alligator Blood, and Visions, where it's just kind of three tracks that honestly I don't really care too much for.
Mhm.
I zone out every time I get to that part of the record and then I look up and it's Memorial and I'm like, "Oh, yay, I love this song." Memorial is a great track. I think I fucking love how it ends, where it's just kind of it's peaceful, but it's a little bitter. That's just one that stuck with me, and I went, okay, interesting. Blessed with a Curse, I think is great. Fucking ass beater as always. Something I really liked about this record, though, is that it is the obvious stepping stone from their last record to what they're going to do next. Sempiternal could not have existed without There Is a Hell,
Yeah.
because two completely, I mean, vastly different records sonically, maturity wise, like skill wise, mixing wise. Everything is so much better on There Is a Hell. My only gripe though is like the mixing on the record is incredible, except for on Crucify Me. Like Ollie is so buried in that for me. I would have he's like 2 layers under and I wish they could have like brought him up like one more layer
Mhm.
because it's a little too chaotic for me. I also really like the techno influences that they kind of have on here, which is very new for them. And there are little bits and pieces in it where you can kind of hear um Current Bring Me the Horizon. There are little moments where I had, oh, you could hear where they started getting like interested in kind of like techno and kind of like the poppier sides of metalcore, but they didn't fully indulge in it. But it was just kind of like, here's a little taster for something we're gonna do in 15 years, you know? But I liked the record a lot. I think it's really solid. It's just kind of like that middle portion of the record that I just didn't care too much for. It's just three songs: Home Sweet Hole, Alligator Blood, and Visions. Other than that, I think the rest of the tracks are fucking incredible. And I'm a massive fan. Massive fan. This is where they start to really like hook me.
I told you.
This is so fucking good. Yeah.
I told you. Yeah. This record's fantastic. As I said at the beginning, spent a lot of time with this record when I was getting into the band. You're totally right with it being that obvious stepping stone between Suicide Season and Sempiternal, because there is no way. I mean, you could, but it's hard to
so many people.
It's hard to envision that jump without this record existing in the middle. But I think it's incredibly solid, especially the opener is one of my favorite album openers, just hands down. I think it absolutely smashes. It does so many things while remaining a cohesive, interesting experience. And I love throughout the entire record, there's so many like points where it becomes like super atmospheric in the middle of the song.
Yes.
And then it's able to jump almost seamlessly from like this weird lull where like any other band would pull you out of the song, but for some reason Bring Me the Horizon is able to keep you invested and then brings you to the most anthemic part of that song, because there's so many anthemic moments on this record, which is such a key, because Sempiternal has just moments like that littered throughout the album.
That's the whole record.
Yeah, but there's so many songs on this record where like it lulls out and then the anthem part of the song comes in, and I really dig that. I like that they're able to keep my attention throughout it. You know, it keeps it interesting, that's for sure. But I really dig songs like Crucify Me, Anthem, It Never Ends. It Never Ends is honestly one of my favorite songs off the album. I like the repeating chorus at the end, or the repeating of the song title at the end. I typically bitch about that, but I think, you know, it fits in the song, and it is driving in home the idea of the loose concept that you mentioned at the beginning.
Like, what the fuck is it, dude? Just, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah. Fuck, man, when it was 2020 and I was getting into this record, I'm like, damn, this is the coolest song ever. They're just saying fuck.
That's crazy. That's
Dude,
crazy.
That's crazy. I still think it's crazy. I'm a big fan of Alligator Blood, Blacklist, but for me, the end of the album leaves something to be desired. It
Really?
opens so fucking strongly with Crucify Me. And, you know, I love, you know, the past two records, Bring Me has done the thing where they lull out for a minute and then that last song smashes you. They lull out for a grand total of 8 minutes with Memorial and Blessed with a Curse. And I like Memorial as that interlude, like just one straight up atmospheric track, because the entire record has atmospheric moments. I think it makes sense to have a song that basically encapsulates the moments in the songs throughout the album. But then Blessed with a Curse for me kind of just drags on. Not a huge fan of that. And then The Fox and the Wolf is just not a strong closer when we had so much downtime. And I'm going to compare it to the records we've already heard and the closers on those albums, which are standouts on both of those records. And they have closers later in the discography that we'll talk about when the time comes that are standouts. So to open with potentially one of their best opening tracks.
One of their best songs.
Yes. And, you know, I know the next album opens with the song, but one of their best opening tracks, to end it with The Fox and the Wolf, it pisses me off, and was like honestly my main takeaway from the record, because that's
Really?
like how it ended, and I'm like, god damn it, like it could have ended so much better.
Like it feels more like a middle track is what you're saying. It just doesn't feel like a closer.
Yeah, it just there just should have been a song that doesn't exist that's there instead. Honestly, that's how I feel.
Wow.
Like I just don't think that The Fox and the Wolf is the song that should close this album.
Yeah,
And
it
I
does
don't.
end very abruptly, especially with how big and anthemic Crucify Me was.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, like it almost needs something to match that energy in a different way. Don't replicate the opener to be the closer, but something in that vein would have been awesome. But I don't even know if there's a song on the record that would go in its spot. I just don't like the closer. I think it falls flat with something that's such a huge opener. But yeah, man, through and through, I'm glad since the last time I heard the record they actually updated and put the features on the track list, so now I know who the fuck is on the album. Because special shout out to Lights, the two songs that she's on are some of my favorites throughout the record. Before I knew who the hell was on there, and now today going on Spotify and being like, holy shit, there's features on these songs. I didn't even know. Because when I got into Bring Me, I didn't get I got super into the music, but I didn't get super into figuring everything out about the band because it was 2020, so I was consuming just shitloads of music and trying to get into as many bands as I could and not taking the time to figure out the lore behind the bands and the records I was consuming. So I was just like, these songs are so cool, and whoever the hell is doing the vocals on Crucify Me and Don't Go is fucking awesome. I did not knowing they weren't in the band. But yeah, overall an incredibly solid record, definitely a stepping stone. And very happy to have returned to this album after so long. I forgot how fucking good most of this record is, because for me it basically just smashes from Crucify Me to Blacklist, and the tail end I could do without. But yeah, I'm a fan of this record. I'm a fan of this band. I give it 5 big booms for sure.
Boom, 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 boom. I've committed. Boom. No, I think, did I say Memorial was an ass kicker?
No, you said Blessed with a Curse is an ass kicker.
Thank God, because when you mentioned that it was the kind of the slowed track, which is what they did on their fucking debut record, so I didn't even fucking connect to that, where I think that was a little callback that they did, because they did the exact same thing on their debut. I'm learning a lot about this band, and I am starting to love them.
Yeah.
I was never really a Bring Me the Horizon girl. It was just I respect them. I like Obey. It was always my thing. I was like, yeah, that song's good. But I get it now fully. I have a shit ton of Bring Me the Horizon songs in my songs now, and that makes me very happy, because I've been waiting for this. I've been praying for days like these.
Yeah. Pray for plagues.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah, look at that. But yeah, those are our thoughts on Bring Me the Horizon's 2010 album. There is a hell, believe me, I've seen it. There is a heaven, let's keep it a secret. I can't wait for next week's title to be a lot shorter than that.
Sandpit Turtle.
Not entirely sure how we're going to fit this one in the title of the video.
I'm just doing there is a hell, ... and everyone will know what we mean. Yeah.
But yeah, those are our thoughts. We've chatted about the first 2 records as well as the most recent one, because we covered that throughout our podcast episodes last year, so all of those are linked down below. If you like Bring Me the Horizon, care to hear our thoughts on the rest of the records, stay tuned, subscribe, it helps us out a ton. We'll be covering the rest of their discography for the next several weeks. You can follow us on Twitter, it's Good_Noise_Cast, Instagram's Good Noise Podcast, Facebook is Good Noise Pod, TikTok is Good Noise Podcast, audio streaming services are Good Noise Podcast, and patreon.com is patreon.com/Good Noise Podcast. Other than that, I have been Shane.
I've been Glory.
And we have been the Good Noise Podcast. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.